Hey, this is Steve Bloom, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Do you start your day deciding which video game you're gonna play? You fight with your family over which is better, Marvel or DC. The geek of all of your friends, cause you know what Batman beats Superman. This is the right place to be, so turn up the volume cause you're an altered geek. Altered geek. Get altered. Geek. Altered geek. From Star Wars to Star Trek, comics to tech. Altered geek. Get altered. Geek. Altered geek. Pull up a chair cause you're an altered geek.
Okay, so, as I mentioned in the top of the show, the thing that's been going around the internet that people have been losing their blasted minds over is that Disney's CEO change. Basically, you're getting rid of one Bob for another, and one of them is going more to the creative side, and honestly, he's been trying to leave since 2016, and just things were so good that his contract's till 2021. And the other Bob runs the theme parks and all that side of things, but he's going to be taking on more of a primary role of Disney, and people are just losing it all over, like, oh, where did this come from? Oh, why is this happening? I don't understand. Disney's burning to the ground. So yeah, it's kind of funny, all the different articles that are going out, and all of them are basically saying the same thing, in that he wanted to focus more on the creative side of things and all the properties that they've established, rather than having to divide his time between that and doing the day-to-day of Disney CEO work. So he's still a board chairman until like 2021, and still going to be pretty primary in his role. However, he stepped down immediately to do this other venture. My thing is I think they're more so leaning to the grooming of this other Bob. I can't remember either one of their last names right now. I'm just going off of memory. But I think they're grooming him to kind of get the handle on that situation and kind of learn on it, while the other Bob is still in there, and, you know, this massive empire that's been built up because of him. So that's a good thing in that regard, and I think that it's only going to benefit Disney. It's funny that TV's Mr. Neil, he made some kind of a joke. He says there's a conspiracy going on with Disney, where they're buying up all these properties just so they can put Muppet Babies back, the original one, back on Disney Plus. It makes absolutely no sense, but it's hilarious because they've got all these other old shows on there, but they don't have the original Muppet Babies, which they own the Jim Henson Company. They own Lucasfilm. They own Marvel. They own all these other like companies, and yet like something simple is more or less what he's poking fun at. So yeah, it's kind of amusing in that regard. But I only see Disney getting stronger as time goes on. However, their streaming service leaves a lot to be desired. I do like how they break things down to categories by company that's inside. However, their library is not all that extensive. And Netflix, even, their library, it shows that from 2010 to now, to like the 10-year gap, they have significantly less programming. They just hide a lot of it a lot better. That's still there, and behind their little motion graphic teaser trailer thing that pops up at the top when you're on any page. Honestly, I find it highly annoying. I wish there was a way to turn it off, and I'm sure there is. I just don't know what it is, and I usually bookmark somewhere where I plan on watching a show for a while so that I don't have to deal with that. For the web interface, or I have the app, for instance, on my phone, and I just download a ton of episodes that I want to watch so I can avoid anything on the app itself. The trick is if you have Hulu and you have Netflix, and you watch Star Trek a lot, and you want to watch more than what Netflix allows you to download, Hulu lets you download, I think it's 16 episodes of something, or 16 somethings, and Netflix lets you download 12. So if you download, for instance, 12 Star Trek episodes on Netflix, you can download another 16 on Hulu. I don't know. I find it highly amusing because I do this so that I can watch them. Came in handy, for instance, for when I'm on a flight, because then I don't have to deal with hearing other people. I don't have to deal with whatever the garbage is that they have on the in-flight movie, if they even have that option at all. So, yeah, it's a nice, convenient feature. So moving into the home studio category, and we'll broach this a little bit more once Mike the Birdman Dodd and Alex Ricci get on the episode, because I feel like they have a decent amount of stuff to add to the conversation. But I'm going to just lightly touch on, for instance, my experience with it. I find it highly entertaining that these elitist podcasters and radio people believe that you should have a mixer for your microphone, and it should be XLR, not USB. So I find it a little annoying that they all are this elitist nature of you have to have this or you're not a pro. Basically, you can be a podcaster at any level, and that's kind of what I feel like the radio industry has kind of tainted the whole indie podcaster space, especially with the Academy of Podcasters, where they have radio people. Now get this, they have radio people that run this, and they announced it at Podcast Movement, and I'm going to circle back around to the studio stuff in a minute, but they created this basically association of podcasters where they allow people of the indie sort, or just regular podcasters or radio people, they can become like basically chairman or board members for 2 years or something for this association. And it also is, supposedly going to have training things, and it's going to have, so you can vote for shows and have them boosted in the rankings, and, have an award show and all these novel concept and nice options. However, the thing that concerns me is that it's headed up by a radio guy, and a lot of the people that are in it are podcasters, but they're from the radio side of things. And to me, I get that there's enough room for everyone in the podcasting space, and there should be. It should be a pretty open format. However, because of advertising dollars in radio, all companies are getting involved in this, which means that the indie podcaster space is growing smaller and smaller as time goes on, or more difficult to stand out, because you have all these professionally paid podcasters that are radio people, or translate their radio show to podcast. I used to work for one. And there's not saying that it shouldn't be consumable, but the problem I see with it is that they're almost crapping on the indie podcasters. And with this association, my concern is that, again, it's one of those charge a fee, join a club, and a lot of these big people that are in podcasting that were indie podcasters have switched over to the pay side of things so that they can make a buck off of people that don't know any better. And I'm not saying that training doesn't come involved at some point in podcasting, but the problem with it is everyone's trying to make a buck off of someone. It's almost like any of these different services where somebody's like, oh, own your own business. Oh, become a voiceover agent. And then you have or voiceover talent. And then you have all these different places that are just trying to get your money. And that's what I feel is happening with the podcasting space. There's so many podcast conventions that are around now that weren't around years ago. And the funny thing is I would more than love to go. The problem is they cost way too much money. They not only want $350 just to start out, just to show up at the event, which is, in my mind, ridiculous. I can go to a Comic-Con for under $100. Now, just let that sink in. For a weekend, I can go for under $100 at most Comic-Cons. Yes, maybe SDCC, they don't do things that way. But I still think that $300 for one of these events is a bit steep, which almost prices out indie podcasters because indie podcasters don't have any money. I'm still an indie podcaster. I don't have any money. Any of the advertising money we make on this goes right back in the funnel. It pays for the hosting, which, granted, is free, but it pays for the website hosting. It pays for any of my time that I have to put into development, any software needs, any plugins, the theme, just things in general of that nature. And so the whole thing with these conventions are that it's become, yes, indie podcasters are more than welcome to be there, and they're, not pushed aside or anything, but the radio people are getting more and more involved. And of course, these older time podcasters that are indie but are kind of making that switch, it's gotten too commercial. And there's so many of these events now that I feel like the indie podcaster isn't being properly represented. Just to go to one of these conventions, it's going to cost you $1,500 for a weekend. Or even if it's a 4-day event, it's going to cost you like $2,000. I priced out how much it was going to go, and of course they only go to the big cities. Because I priced out how much it was going to be to go to Podcast Movement, and there was no way I could afford it. No way. Between transportation, food, lodging, the ticket itself. And like I said, just to start out, it's $350. A lot of them go up to $600. Because then you get the premium track where you get to go to all of the events. You get to have the downloadables. You get to do this and that. It's ridiculous. They're basically swiping money. And so again, that kind of comes down to the elitism that's built into podcasting now, is that you have to be almost on par with these radio people, which you should strive to have better audio and better quality programming. And yes, recording on your cell phone in a car while you're going to work is not probably the best idea. But if the content is relevant and the content is providing some sort of an educational purpose or entertainment factor, then honestly, people will look past a little bit of the sound quality as long as it's not like horrible or, and most of you know what that is. It's me playing a video game while I'm podcasting. I don't do that anymore. Although it is annoying with some of the stuff with the mouse clicks because I'm trying to pull something up and not have it on the program and converse at the same time. So yeah, I got to figure out a way around that. But yeah, like I said, though, and this kind of ties back into the mixers and the microphones, is you don't need one of those mixers. You don't need a multiple sound card setup. Honestly, yes, I know Skype is like kind of frowned upon. Skype does what it's supposed to do. But people can also do Zoom meetings, which, again, does the same thing. You can have people join it. And if you're not looking to do the video side of things, you can do Discord. Discord is surprisingly a wonderful tool that easily replaces Skype. You can not only have people listen to your stuff live while you're doing Discord, having the channel and having the chat thing set up, but you can also have it record. And it puts everyone on their own tracks. So however many people you have built into this feed, you get the ability to have them all on separate tracks anyway. So when you go to edit them down, if something doesn't sync up, you can chop and maneuver. So it's honestly, I really prefer using Discord over Skype. Skype, all of the call recorders for Skype put everybody on the same channel, or if they don't, they put you on a separate channel from everyone else. And honestly, the audio quality isn't all that great, and they don't really have as many good options for you. Whereas when you use the Craig bot that's in Discord, you can download as a WAV, as FLAC, as AAC, as, there's like 2 other formats, I believe. But you get to have all these different formats, and some of them even let you download an Adobe or Audacity project file, which will help you in the sense of already pre-building your project. So there's a lot to be said for the free side of things. And I'm not saying that there isn't a world where you could connect people. Like if you're going to use phones or something, Zoom might work for you if you're looking for a cheaper method. If you're wanting to actually plug people in and have these multiple sound cards to handle the different audio inputs, or you want a mixer for some of those purposes, by all means, do it if that's what you're comfortable with. If you're a radio person and you enjoy it, if you're a podcaster and you just want to experiment with it and kind of play around with it, it's great. You don't have to have it, though, to be a podcaster. And I feel like it's become this elitism that if you don't have these things, if you have a Blue Yeti, you're like totally crapped on in the industry. I have a Blue Yeti. I've had one since 2012. And honestly, I've heard worse audio from people that have professional setups. I've interviewed voice actors. I've interviewed actors or just geeky people. I've talked to... Twig, I'm sure, has some better setup than I do. And often, I sound better on the quality than they do. I sound more clear, more crisp, and majority of the podcasters that we've worked with, they either use the same setup or they have a crappier mic. And the Blue Yeti, yes, it does pick up room noise and some of the ambient stuff there, but it's pretty crystal clear other than that. And you can change the gain on it, which I figured out somebody screwed with mine, and that's why it's been picking up all the little ambient room sounds. But you can adjust it on there. You can sit there and you could turn it from an omnidirectional to a bidirectional to cardioid to, there's like one other setting. But suffice it to say, you'll be fine if you have that. And yes, you do need headphones. You do need having some of that setup. And if you don't, your audio quality or things of that nature could suffer. You shouldn't be playing it over a speaker because you'll get sound that pops back in your interface. So again, like I feel like there's this elitism that's kind of building in the industry. And so if you're an indie podcaster, it's either because even there's that one website where they let you, I can't remember the name of it because I would never use it, and I think honestly it does suck. As an indie podcaster, it's the one where they let anybody just kind of record and they host it for free, and people usually record like 2 to 5 episodes and then they fizzle out. Anyways, some other company owns them. So I don't necessarily agree with that method either, because it's making it super easy for people to get involved. But I feel like there should be a little balance between the two. Like there shouldn't be like you have to have all this state-of-the-art equipment, and you shouldn't be like I can do it because it's all free and you can jump in on this side of things. I've been doing it since I had to code my own RSS feeds for all the Geekcast radio programs, and they each were their own feed, and it sucked. Until we went with using the Blueberry PowerPress plugin on the website, which built the RSS feeds for us, and then eventually to Blog Talk Radio and then Spreaker. But yeah, honestly, I feel that's part of the problem, contributing to podcasting. So cycle back now that I've gone from one end of the spectrum to the other, to the studio setup. I still have my Blue Yeti. It still works, and until it dies, I don't plan on replacing it with any other microphone. And yes, I may do some research, and I may switch to another USB mic that's different and not Blue, but I might keep with another newer Blue. There's still podcasters and voice actors that use it, and I need to do more research on that because I want to do more voice acting. which that's a totally another subject that I'll cover after the break. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the podcast side of things, I bought a extendable arm that mounts to the desk, that I could attach my Blue Yeti, and there's only certain ones that have the little specialized 5/8 screw that goes into the bottom of the Yeti that fits perfectly, because some of them are plastic, some of them are metal. This one's metal, so that's why I went with that. And plus it's got a way to store your cord, so that's nice. It's not the one that it goes inside the plastic. You still have to use like Velcro straps to hold it, but it's got like a track that it can sit in, more or less. But it's really nice, and I tried it out for the first time the other day doing voiceover, and I adjusted the gain, and I fixed my microphone, got it all set up, put the pop screen filter on, and it actually sounded great. It worked. I was able to not only sit at my desk and have it instead of below my chin when I record, I had it face level. I had it within inches of my face. And if I want to stand up and record and do voiceover, it'll extend that way too. So in that regard, it's a really nice option. It only cost me $29 to get that arm on Amazon. The microphone, originally I paid $99. It was on sale on Amazon, but it was like $120 at the time, and it's like $130 now, which is weird. But then they also have, I have my Logitech ClearChat Pro USB headset, which, $30 headset. They say you should have a better one, like a studio quality one that blocks out sound outside of the headphones, so you can actually hear all the ambient room sounds and hear all of that when you're doing voiceover. But I haven't gotten there yet. The headphones are broken, but they do stay together, so until they're completely kaput, or until I get a little bit of decent money built up where I can get a nice set of headphones, that's what I'm sticking with. And then I was going to soundproof by building basically a soundproof barrier using cardboard and egg cartons, but I did research on that, and egg cartons are not only a fire trap, but they don't actually block any sound at all, even though they're porous. It has to be that specialized foam or it just doesn't do the deal. You can, if you're looking for that cleaner sound and the dead room sound, they also say, like, you don't have to have a studio built in your house. You can just move your stuff to a closet with lots of clothes or blankets where the sound is dead. And basically that can be your recording booth. And I've thought about that, but I'd have to move everything. And so what I'll probably be doing is getting one of those isolated, or at least two of those, unless it's big enough, those foam enclosures that you can kind of put around yourself that when you're recording to kind of block sound out. And I got to get some quieter fans for my PC, but that's beside the point. But yeah, so I have that set up. I have a Logitech 920C HD 1080p webcam, which does the job. It's not perfect if I were going to do the streaming videos thing full time, because I've gotten that and I've used it, but intermittently. It's not like it's something I use a lot. But if I was going to stream more, I would probably get something more high dollar and nicer. But it works for what it works for. I need to get an LED light though for my face so that I can put it behind the monitor so that it lights up my face when I'm being recorded, because unfortunately the light in the room still has kind of a yellowish hue to it, and I'm sure a lot of it's the light bulbs, and I'll probably change those out at some point once I die. But it's also just because it's in a basement, it's not a controlled room. But it's a lot better than where I was in both houses, so it's getting better. So anyways, yeah, my studio setup is pretty much all that. I use Adobe Audition for recording and editing, and it works great. And I honestly recommend all of the things that I said, because I actually use them, and I don't have to spend a ton of money on it. once you've bought a lot of this stuff, it doesn't really keep costing you. Yes, I did upgrade my computer, but that was for all kinds of other reasons, not only gaming, but editing and things of that nature. So yeah. Let me know what you guys, if you're a podcaster or like doing voices or some of that stuff, what you have for your setup, or what, even if you're not, if you're just a gamer and you have like a PC setup or you're a streamer or something, just let me know what your setup is. You can comment on the episode post on geekcastradio.com. You can also let me know on the Twitters at AlteredGeek or at SCP21. And for right now, we'll be back after this commercial break with a conversation about the voice acting class.
And we're back. Welcome, kids, to Altered Geek. It's Altered Geek on the Geekcast Radio Network.
Anyways, now that we've had the Joker and John Lovitz just randomly make an appearance, we're going to talk voiceover. So, I went to this class. It was like a city over from where I work, and like 2 cities over from where I live. So, ultimately, not a bad idea. And it was put on by Such a Voice, which I don't know if anybody's heard of them, but they do coaching, they do master classes, they do introductory classes for voiceover, they do, pretty sure, demo production and some other things. That being said, there's clearly an agenda with these type of sites. And granted, the information they did give at the seminar was valid. Because a lot of it I've heard before, and some of it I hadn't, or it was a nice refresher. So it was very helpful to have this class. But I enjoyed the overall experience of it, and what it was able to provide. And the price wasn't too bad. It was like $50 for this introductory class. You get about 2.5 hours worth of content crammed in your noggin, plus some kind of quasi experience to play around with it. So that basically they give you scripts, they'd break you down into groups, and then you would perform ad copy for different types of voiceover for commercial purposes. And then the instructor would put it to a bed of music, and there you go. And in the process, they would also evaluate your vocal performance and what you're able to do. The only thing I see a problem with is it's only gearing people towards the commercial side. And what I mean by that is the scripts that they have are clearly commercials for something, whether it be a health spa, whether it be a coffee shop, or whether it be just something else of that nature. So what had happened, or a theater, that was the other one, like a physical theater, not like go watch a movie theater. So that being said, I felt it was a little disadvantageous to anybody that's looking to get into it for animation, characters, any of those type of purposes, because it really doesn't tell you much as far as that's concerned. You don't get to really try any of it, but it is a 2.5 hour class. So I don't expect them to sit there and have the time to run through all of these different types. What it was nice, though, is that they do give you the evaluation. Now, mine got somewhere lost in the internet ether somewhere, and I reached out because I knew the actor's name, who happens to be also a voice coach and a voice director and some other things. I did reach out and send her an email and ask, I didn't get this. I don't know if it got missed in translation from me writing down my email or that. So I did bring that up and emailed her, and she was like, oh, I did send you an email, But apparently it must not have gone anywhere because it didn't ever hit my inbox. But I got her reply. So I don't know exactly what it was or why or how it happened. But I should be getting it soon. That's all that really matters out of it. But I'm more so doing it because of the curiosity of what it entails. Now I know that the end game for such a voice is to get you to pay them, whatever the monthly fee is, whatever the subscription, for demo services, for additional classes, for a demo, for all of these different things. But looking at their roster, not to say that they don't have very talented people, because they do, and I've seen some YouTubers on there that are a part of their coaching staff, like Tay Zonde, who did the Chocolate Rain song way back when. Guy used to follow me on Twitter for a while. I don't yet know if he still does. I don't think so, but anyways, he's on there, and there's other people on there that I may or may not have heard of, which doesn't discredit them at all, because obviously they're doing it for a living, but they're also doing the coaching side of it, because, again, it's a gig. So, it's always important to have that next job. So I totally get it from their perspectives. But I'm a little leery of it, and so were a lot of the students when we went into the hallway to practice doing these lines. And my concern is very similar to the podcast industry, to be honest, is that you have to be careful of, like, these services. Like, I don't know anybody that's used such a voice or have heard of anyone that's used them that is fairly big or even mid-range. Not saying that everyone takes the same path and gets to the same capabilities, but I'm a little leery of services when they're, you kind of pay them and then it may or may not pan out. Like I did Voice123, I've done Voices.com, I've done a few of those. Basically, your pay-to-play sites. And honestly, I've never been lucky with the pay-to-play. Granted, I've never had an actual demo either, so that's probably a lot of it. The other part is that I just don't like the concept of paying someone to have a chance to audition. I would rather be able to audition and then pay somebody on the agent side if I get it. If you kind of get my drift there. So, anyways, everyone was practicing doing these lines. We went out in the hall, we practiced, we did it, kind of compared backgrounds a little bit, and why, the motivation to do it. And everyone was pretty nervous going in because the teacher did record us and put us to a music bed on the track, and it came out really nice, and everybody did really well at it, but there was a lot of nervous, man. So they were all anticipating the sales pitch, basically, and so the instructor more or less said, everyone will get an email. If I think you have what it takes, I'll give you a call. Which to me is code, because they ask you like a plethora of questions. They ask you if you've had radio experience. They've asked you if you've had, I think the way that it's being done is it narrows it down so that they call the people most likely to spend their money. And I could be totally wrong at that, but I don't think you can give somebody I think this is for you and I don't think it's for you off of one line of dialogue. And the same thing goes when we audition people for the radio play that I'm a part of. Yes, they may do great at their audition. They may suck at their audition. The true chance is getting them in the booth to actually record. And that can determine a lot of things. We've had people that were great on auditions that were terrible in the booth with, had range on the audition, had no range on the booth. Then we've had people that are the opposite. No range in the audition, great in the booth. It just depends. And Then there's the rare occurrence where you get the people that are just good no matter what, and don't even have to read the script, and so that aside, I think that they kind of play on this gullibility factor of like, you really want this, we're gonna pump you up, you pay us X amount of dollars and you can join the club. And so I don't know if that's the way that it's going. I hope not. I'm not trying to slander or say anything bad against the company. I worry about that kind of thing because, again, I don't know. I've never heard of anybody that's used it to actually get decently big. So, again, could just be my own misconception. But I didn't get a call. I didn't get an email either. So I'm wondering if it's because I said I'm a radio producer of a podcast, audio drama for kids, and I get to do voices, which could have automatically singled me out as, you have experience, you know some of this stuff, we're not even going to bother messing with you. Or it could be that they honestly just didn't see me doing commercial work, which, again, that's what they promote. So I have no intention. Like, I would do the commercial work if there was a need. Like, if there was, the money was good, if it was, something that I could see myself doing. But I'm all about the character voices, the impressions, the ADR. So if I had the opportunity to do it, then that's what I would do. And so my hope is that nobody else is getting put through the ringer by using the site or the class or anything to that degree. But that being said, D. Bradley Baker actually has a website where he has tons of information that's for free called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. And you can also watch videos by John Bailey, who's in voiceover now and started off doing the same thing that I'm doing, which, doing amateur dubbing, doing, YouTube videos or just side projects. And then it eventually snowballed into what he's doing. And so, not saying that they don't work at it, because I know they do. I have to work now to try and come up with different voices for every time we record a production run with a season, because I end up playing, and I enjoy it, don't let me kid you, I enjoy playing 3 to 4 characters a season. This last production run, I only got to play one character, which was my primary in the show, and his name's Peabody. And unfortunately, he only had 21 lines in season 14. And I had no secondary, tertiary, or 4th level characters. So I was a little sad, to be honest. But season 12, I had 4 characters. I had 2 in the main storyline, 2 in the biblical side. And then in season 13, I had 1 in the primary, which, again, Peabody. And then I had 2 in the biblical side, and I played an animal that talks. A talking parakeet. So, it's fun, no matter what. I used impressions a little bit too. But, and now with the mini production that we're about to go into in a couple of weeks, actually 2 weeks, I get to play, again, Peabody, which is my main character. And then I also get to play, there's a historical, basically flashback set of episodes. So I get to play, 2 of the historical flashback characters. I get to play just another rando. I get to play a bird, the talking bird again, which is reprising, and Peabody. So I get to actually play 5 voices in this production run. So I'm super excited. And then I'm hoping that in season 15 that we're going to record in April, that I get to play in 3 and 4 more as well. But again, you gotta, and I get it. I had a few people actually contact me through Twitter that were interested in learning more and kind of just connecting with me because I connected with such a voice on Twitter and kind of mentioned that I went to the class and it was fun. And then we kind of just bantered back and forth about, voices we enjoy doing and some of the projects and, what the teacher had said. And so it was just a lot of loaded information and a lot of fun overall. I did like how the teacher taught everything that they did, the instructor. It was very informative. There was a lot of information there to unpack. Some of it, again, like I said, I knew. Some of it I didn't. But I'm definitely looking more towards that direction in voiceover because I love doing character voices and impressions. Like right now, I'm trying to learn how to do the British accent and dialect, which it's almost... Megatron has like a little bit of a play on that Shakespearean British voice, and so does one of my characters in Discovery Mountain, but I'm going for more of a British and with some like Cockney or some London accent because it's supposed to be like the British, or the British are coming. So yeah, that's the kind of field I'm playing in on that. So watching a lot of movies for practice so that I can do some impressions and I can record it to my phone and kind of remember what I did so I can go back in the booth and repeat it. But practicing with the script is always a plus, which I have those, so that'll be awesome. Anyways, I think I've rambled on long enough. If there's any questions you guys have or you want to kind of broach or ask me about any of the subjects talked about today, or any topic suggestions for when we meet back up with Birdman and Alex, drop us a feedback at alteredgeek.com, or connect with me on Twitter at alteredgeek and at SCP21. So until next time, geeks, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks.